Welcome back, Chappelle. All right. So I know for a dog that I talk as much junk about, she's still she can be very sweet and very cute. So we are going to pick up where pretty much all of us left off in class after our green and or white day, right? We were talking about, like, the bad emperors, right? The 5 bad emperors. Well, if there's 5 bad emperors, there's got to be 5 good emperors and stuff like that. Look at all this stuff that's going to be on this next test. Isn't this insane? All right. All right, there we go. So, now, we talked about the 5 bad emperors in class. Now, I didn't get to a couple of them simply because they take a little while to talk about, and not to mention the fact that, they're very, very extreme people, but I don't really want to talk about them on the internet because of some of the despicable things that they did. But, however, let's go ahead and keep moving, right? So, biggest thing to understand, though, is that not all the emperors were bad, right? There actually was a period during the Pax Romana known as the 5 good emperors, right? And these 5 men kind of serve as the last fail effort to be like, Rome can do it, right? Rome's going to survive. Rome's going to push through all these rough starts. Rome's going to be an empire and it's going to flourish. Pax Romana, yay! So it's going to be fine, right? Now, the 5 good emperors are also very important to understand because they're the 5 emperors that went one after another that weren't murdered by one another, right? The 5 good emperors are the 5 emperors that all died of natural causes and old age and not being killed by their own guard because they were such bad people, right? So, the big 5 to know are Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Pius, and Aurelius, right? And they're all kind of defined by a few simple things, okay? So, Nerva was in office for a year, didn't screw up, and died. There you go, right? Good stuff. Now, and then Trajan is a big deal because he actually brings Rome to its height, right? He actually has this big, what's it called? A column, right? This big column built to actually commemorate the fact that he brought Rome to the biggest it ever was, right? To the largest it ever was, to the biggest the empire could possibly go, right? Outside of trying to invade, like, all of Asia, okay? So Trajan does a big deal. Hadrian then comes in, and he's actually a genius, right? And Hadrian organizes the bureaucracy system. He actually condenses and consolidates the empire away from some of these rogue territories, and then he builds several large walls, right? Now, a lot of people look at these walls as being like, oh, they're fortifications to protect us from outside barbarian attack. Is this true? Yes. But a lot of other historians, like Mary Beard, for example, also argue that they stopped the growth of Rome when it needed to be put in check, right? So, under the Pax Romana, the Roman Empire was growing at such a rapid rate that it's just making Josie's ears stand on end, right? Like, so, it's just getting too big, too fast, and it's becoming too large for one man to actually rule over. So, Hadrian comes in, builds some walls, and limits that expanse. He kind of puts the walls in and says, all right, we're done. This is as big as we need to go. We can manage this. Let's go ahead and handle that, right? So, Pius comes in, and he's actually kind of just known for being like, hey, I'm pious. There's peace going on right now. No one's dying. There's no civil war. And in the few years he was in charge, it's what it was defined by, just a series of years of peace, right? And then you got Marcus Aurelius coming in, who is the Roman philosopher king, right? He is like Plato's ultimate stoic philosopher king, right? He comes in and he starts to discuss how basically the needs of the people outweigh the needs of his own, right? That he actually needs to be able to give Roman people not something in excess, but give them the needs and the things they need to survive and the needs and the things they need to keep pushing forward, right? So Marcus Aurelius is like the great philosopher king. He's the most quoted philosopher king. He also has a lot of different writings, and he's considered one of the biggest and baddest that Rome's ever seen, right? So these 5 emperors are the series of 5 good emperors that mark... Oh, that's Hadrian's Wall right there. That's actually in Britain. So they're the 5 good emperors that kind of define the period of the Pax Romana reaching its climax, right? Because after him, it really doesn't matter how many good emperors that you got, Rome, because no one's going to save you, because the fall is coming, right? The fall's coming. Josie, I know you want to run away because it's big red lettering and the fall is going to happen soon. But after Marcus Aurelius' son Commodus takes over, it kind of begins a moment of just failure, rapid failure, right? So Marcus Aurelius' son Commodus takes over in Josie. Let's go ahead and check the year on that real quick, just to make sure that we're in the right spot. Sound good? Commodus. So Commodus the emperor takes over in 180, right? So then enters into the period following his death in 190. And him being such a scumbag, he's the gladiator king that actually apparently like killed sleeping lions while they were in the Colosseum because he wanted to try and show how manly he was. He had them drugged first, and he would just go up and stab them and force people to cheer for him and stuff like that. So when he comes in, it brings then in the constant, just the array of bad leaders, terrible organization, people murdering each other left and right, right? And we are now going to get into the fall of Rome. But we're going to insanely oversimplify it, all right? So we're going to go ahead and get into one early phase of the fall of Rome, and that's mainly talking about how the western area of Rome is just starting to kind of hit the fan, right? So the Rome is going to start declining in the west, all right? Let me see if I can move my face real quick. There we go. All right, so, and we're going to get up to the rule of Diocletian, and we're going to kind of leave it up in the air to decide if he's a scumbag or not, all right? So Rome is going to start declining in the west, right? So this is the peak of the Roman Empire under Trajan around 117 AD, right? Absolutely huge, massively big. Hadrian limits it. Everything gets consolidated, but the problem is that there's a lot of trouble in this empire. No, I know, Josie, it's scary. All right, so no one man can rule over this entire thing. Absolutely impossible, right? And so the fact that they are ineffective and unable to govern effectively, tyrants like people like Caligula and Nero are going to seize power, right? There's a bunch of other guys too. One dude's name was Maximus Thrax, and he was like over 7 feet tall and considered one of the worst emperors during the Roman Empire period because he was so brutal, right? Caracalla, the one that actually had the entire city of people executed, and then when he was actually going to the bathroom on the side of the road, he got stabbed in the back by his own guardsmen. He's in charge during this time period. Citizens begin to lose respect for their government, and everything kind of begins to crumble, right? They started crumbling so bad that they entered a period known as the crisis of the 3rd century, right? So in the 200s AD, Rome is just freaking out, right? Rome's in a heap of trouble. Revolts are running rampant all over the empire, right? 2 rogue states break away. The area where Britain is, and then the eastern area where towards the Middle East breaks off, and they start trying to rule effectively on their own, right? So, and then people are also invading the edges of the empire. The Persians and the Germans are coming in, and it's like really mucking things up for everybody. And no one man can stop all these problems. So enter Diocletian, right? Scumbag or savior. So the big thing about Diocletian is he comes in and sets up what's known as his tetrarchy, right? Tetrachary, his tetrarchy. And he is going to split the empire into 4 different parts to make it easier to manage, which effectively saved the entire empire from collapse in the 200s AD, right? So when he comes in, he does this to save it. He enforces price controls. It makes it much easier to manage because he actually appoints 2 Caesars and 2 other military leaders to help him run this thing efficiently, right? Like a bureaucratic system. And it does save the empire for a time. And then he eventually actually retires from being emperor and goes back to farming, much like Cincinnatus, because he's trying to be all poetic and romantic about it. But this is also right after he executed 3,500 Christians. So he threw most of them in the Colosseum and let the lions eat them, which is like very rough, right? So he saved the empire, but he's also a terrible executioner of people just for practicing a different religion, right? So Diocletian's a rough cat, okay? So we're going to stop right there, right, in the crisis of the 3rd century, and how Rome right now after Diocletian is just kind of propped up on 4 very rickety legs, right? So we're going to get into this stuff a little bit more tomorrow. I'm also going to be posting an updated study guide that it's going to have a couple of little questions towards the end of it changed because I just had to do a little bit of like reconstruction. And then also I'm going to make it so you can edit it directly. I need to post one on there that's like a docx that you can download and directly edit in Google Docs, okay? So I'll see you guys later on. Good flip. Good stuff today. Talk to you later. Y'all have a good one.